Welcome to Medical Matters Weekly with Dr. Trey Dobson, presented by Southwestern Vermont Healthcare and Catamount Access Television.
Well, welcome everyone. Today is December 8th, 2021, and we are recording this show for a future broadcast. I'm Trey Dobson, Chief Medical Officer at Southwestern Vermont Medical Center and an emergency medicine physician with Dartmouth-Hitchcock Health. And this is Medical Matters Weekly, a show about the aspects of healthcare that matter to you most. You can submit questions to all of our shows, typically through Facebook Live and our website. Again, this one is being recorded for a future show, so we did receive some questions ahead of time. My guest that I'm very excited about today is Dr. K. Marie King, Chief of Surgery and the Henry and Sally Schaefer Chair of the Department of Surgery at Albany Medical Center. So welcome, K. Marie. We're so excited you're with us.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to represent Albany Medical Center on this conversation.
Does that title, Chief of Surgery and the Henry and Sally Schaefer Chair, fit on your badge?
It sure does not, and don't tell anyone, but I rarely wear my badge. Somehow everybody still knows who I am, so I get by with it.
So Dr. King is the first Black female chair of surgery at an academic health center in the nation. She earned her medical degree at Washington University in St. Louis, her bio goes on and on. I'll just pick a few items from there. She completed a fellowship at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, where she also earned, I guess at the same time, a master's degree in biomedical science. Is that right?
Yes.
So going double, and then served in the U.S. Army during Operation Desert Storm, and joined Albany Med, fast forward into the future on September 1st of this year. Is that correct?
That's right.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to learn more about this. So why don't we just start, and I do this with a lot of guests, just to ask them how they got started in medicine in the first place. What got them interested?
I share the story that I get these downloads. I listen to the universe, and at 8 years old, I thought I would be an astronomer, and suddenly it came to me that I was going to be a medical doctor. And since then, I've been sharing that story with everyone. And so I was packing to move, and I'm looking through all my yearbooks, and it all says, "Congratulations on becoming a doctor," from elementary school all the way through. So it was just a passion that drove all of my decisions through life.
Wow, were you exposed in your home to medical professionals, or
I
you
wasn't.
just read about it, or okay?
I was just one of those precocious kids that said, this is what I'm going to do, and I wanted to help people.
That's great. And then you moved on, though, and decided not only to go into surgery, but to specialize in liver and pancreas. And I'm sure that had a lot to do with your experiences during medical school and residency. But can you elaborate a little bit on why you went into liver and pancreas surgery?
Sure. Susan McClintock is I'm telling her story now that I'm doing these interviews, but she was a plastic surgeon, is still a plastic surgeon at Washington University in St. Louis. And she came to give us a talk as a second-year medical student on what she did in surgery. And it captivated me. And I thought, for sure, I'm going to become a surgeon. So I started trailing her and anyone else who would let me follow them in the operating room. And when I started my third year of medical school, this is when, of course, we begin to do rotations with all the specialties, and my first rotation was on surgery. And I saw the liver, and it was like, I saw the liver, the intestines, and I said, this is the area of the body that I want to operate on. And at that time, WashU had some amazing surgeons, Dr. Steven Strasberg, who's still there, who's a liver and pancreas surgeon. And he was such an influence to me in selecting the specialty with his mastery in surgery and his patience with me as a student. And that really led to that decision.
No, that's great. And for the audience who may not even realize that there are specialists that focus on the liver and pancreas, let me just tell you what I remember back from my medical school and even residency days when I did a few operations in the OR or rotations in the OR. Gosh, these surgeries are 5 and 6 times longer than any of the other surgeries that I was involved with.
They're long, they're complex, and the risks for complications are higher perhaps that's why I was attracted to it. I liked the challenge, and I love the fact that I was able to impact someone's life where they could potentially live a lot longer because I'm able to remove a cancer from the liver or pancreas. So the impact to me was great.
Right. I also remember that that the liver and pancreas surgeons would always put something on the floor that was nice and foam and soft because they knew they were going to be standing for so long.
Yes, I still do that.
Oh, that's great.
I
You
still
talked about
do.
some of your role models. Do you have any others? Role models are so important in shaping our medical career.
And, for me as a young Black woman, most of my role models actually were white males who really took an interest in me and really committed to seeing my vision through and supporting my vision. And I've had so many throughout the course of my career. I'll talk about my chair from my residency, Tim Billier, who's still the surgical chair there. Claude Deschamps, my first chair who hired me at Mayo Clinic. LD Britt, one of the past presidents of the American College of Surgeons. He's been instrumental. Mike Czar, who is one of my big sponsors at Mayo Clinic. He was also a huge influence. But a lot of my influence come from my peers, people just like me who are going through the phases of their careers like me, and we sponsor each other, we mentor each other, and we support each other through the tough times.
And so how did you end up in Albany?
You could blame Jennifer Sang. She's the current chair at Boston University of Surgery.
Okay.
And she gave me a call and said, I'm putting your name in for chair jobs all over the place. And several other people were doing the same. And I got the call from the search firm, the search committee here at Albany to interview. And it was the last day before they closed the process. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. And they said, well, if you think too hard, you'll miss the opportunity. So send us a letter of interest tonight. And I said to my husband, I'm not sure this is what I want to do, but I liked this individual. And I think I'll form a letter and send it. And I sent the letter. It was right the night before they closed the search.
Wow, that's so fortuitous. I mean, and obviously it worked out for a reason.
Yes.
You've only been here a few months, but what are you doing for fun around the area?
Sleeping.
Working and sleeping, yes.
No, this is a beautiful place. So I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, as you probably read, and I never really ventured to upstate New York. And it's such a secret of beauty. I wish I could show you what I see every day out in my office. The Adirondack Mountains, the beautiful mom and pop shops that you miss in a lot of cities right now. It's all here, that New England vibe. And I came here and I loved it. I love the people of Albany. And so on weekends, I'm doing projects around the house to get our house ready for me to move in, but also, visiting these quaint shops and bakeries, and it's really exhilarating.
That's great. And of course, I feel the same, and probably the entire audience here from Vermont, Massachusetts, and New York feels the same.
Yes.
And it's really unfortunate. Sometimes we have difficulty recruiting physicians up this way, but once they get here, then they stay because they realize what a great environment it is. And of course, patients at Southwestern Vermont Medical Center come to Albany for a lot of their more complex surgeries. And some of the folks on this podcast that are listening will likely meet you at some point in their lives.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about being the first Black woman in the nation to lead a surgery at an academic health center. Was that a part of your decision to come to Albany, or did it just happen chance?
I think after George Floyd and the crisis that really gripped the nation, people started to think about these things. And one of the popular conversations in surgery, the House of Surgery, is that, wow, we've never had a Black female chair. And so it was a lot of commentary going on about that. So people, I think, understood that had never happened. And I was surprised when people here knew that had never happened, because it wasn't something even I was thinking about. But once it did happen, there's a certain weight that comes with that. And soon after, one of my dear friends, Andrea Hayes, was appointed the chair at Howard University, and she will start there in January. And so she's the second Black female chair at an academic healthcare center. And so for me, it means a lot because there are challenges when you break through a glass ceiling. You have to stay there because people aren't accustomed to seeing your face or a face like yours. And so the challenges are to be successful in the role. And I take that very seriously. I've had a great response from really everyone in the community and really from folks who've never seen a person of color in a leadership role like this. It impacts them greatly because it allows them to dream big and to say, I could potentially do that one day. And so there's a lot of seriousness to this role that I take very seriously, and I bring my best self to it every day.
Boy, I love some of those words. I'm going to have to re-listen to this broadcast and write them down. I do believe that at least what I witnessed in the past 15 years is certainly more of a desire to bring diversity into our medical staff. I mean, I actually am talking about here locally, but also just in the nation. But then it's difficult to figure out how we encourage that. Do you have any comments on that or thoughts? I'm sure you have thought about it and probably attend conferences where people discuss it.
I don't know if you've read some of the material surrounding the Georgia trial with Aubrey, where they talked about the strategy that the attorney used, where she didn't talk about race at all and allowed for the facts to speak for themselves. I found that fascinating because that's really how I've moved in my career, is to not really focus so much directly on race. But if you can create environments that people feel like they belong, it becomes a moot point, right? If you create environments where people feel safe and that they can bring themselves to work, whether it's from a gender issue or racial issue, then you don't have to directly speak to those societal issues because people will feel safe in that environment. And so for me, it's creating spaces where everyone has a voice, and you have to be intentional about that. And so whether it's a national committee that I lead or a committee within the business sphere, I'm always balancing how many women do we have? Are we going to get enough voices? How many people from this perspective? Do we have medicine on board? I'm always thinking diversity of thought because that adds such richness to the conversation.
Oh, absolutely. And you point out diversity in all aspects. Even within healthcare, we can not include the right specialties, the right services, and then all of a sudden our answers are the same each time, and we're not improving. We're not getting the outcomes we're looking for. So on the converse then, and I've had several shows on this topic, how do we improve the healthcare across diverse backgrounds of patients so that it is truly equitable? And of course, you don't have a one-sentence answer to that, but what are some of your thoughts on how we can do that better?
One of the great lessons I've learned from life is that you have to live life with intention. So you have to be intention. I'll give you an example. We're looking for residency applicants. And when looking at applicants historically, we've just used a number to say, how well did they score to filter the folks? Well, you're going to miss a lot of great people from differing backgrounds by doing that. Sure. And so one of the first things I said coming here is that we will not use that as the way to filter, but really bring through great applicants from various backgrounds to evaluate for our residency. That requires intention, because it's very easy to just go with the grade point average, or they come from Albany, or their fathers and mothers lived here before. It's very easy to go to that place. But when you decide that your intention is to diversify, then you have to open up the way that you evaluate, because people come and bring different skill sets from different walks of life, and you may miss out on a great candidate when doing that.
Absolutely. And I actually struggled with those types of questions years ago too, because the first thing initially when you start is, well, if we don't use the numbers, then how are we going to know that these, the folks are intelligent, which is of course so short-sighted. And we're not going to choose people that aren't going to make it, because it's not fair to themselves, right? And I appreciate that. And it is hard at first, but once you start looking at candidates. So when we do that, though, when we talk about our community as a whole, Vermont itself, where I live, is not diverse, but yet there is still inequity in care. And I think awareness is one of just the key foundation points, so that we can get the care. If we're aware of it, then we can start thinking about it. But if we're not aware of it, we're not going to change anything.
And it's important to alter that conversation by having people from different backgrounds in your environment to help you navigate that. But I caution leaders all the time, and I know in my world we call it a black tax, right? Because if you do have that singular individual, you tax them to do a lot of the work within this space. And I've tried to push communities that I'm a part of to not look to me to make the change, right? Sometimes it's better coming from someone who actually looks like you. And so I will partner with you, but we all own the change. We all own learning and understanding our communities so that we can deliver the best healthcare to them that's possible. And that comes with a lot of empathy, a lot of sympathy, and a lot of intention and awareness to what the needs are for the people who are in your community.
So I'm going to shift gears here a bit, because I just want to be mindful of time. Talk to us a little bit about being a surgeon, specifically a liver and pancreas surgeon, and how you divide that time between the OR and other responsibilities. And I bring this up because I know that people in the community want to hear what their references are often TV shows, right? So the TV shows, there's all kinds of things that happen. But tell us about your day-to-day.
These jobs, there are two main roles. One is covering the hospital and surgical care in the hospital. And then my department of surgery, which are faculty members, residents, and all levels of trainees. Mm-hmm. And that requires a lot of time, a lot of meetings, a lot of relationship building. And so to start, I don't have a clinical practice right now. And I took it off my wall so I could have a prettier background, but I have these big graphs on how I'm going to break up my time. It's important to me to see patients and care for patients. They speak to me of the needs in the environment. And when I'm working with them, I can understand how I need to optimize the environment to make their experience the best that we can make. And so I have to make time. So I will make time to do that and operate. It'll probably just be a clinical day a week because the other responsibilities are so high, and traveling to our affiliate hospitals are a part of that. So, but I can't lose it. I am so fed when I see patients and interact with patients. So I cannot lose my contact with patients at all. So I'll have to build it in there.
Sure. You kind of said something. I'm going to lead you into this quote that I have written down here. Listening is as important in leadership as it is in patient care, which comes from you. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that quote?
I try to be the best K-Marie King I can be. And what I've learned over time is sometimes we spend so much effort trying to be seen. And that's some of the issues when you come from an underrepresented background. You want to be seen. You want to be seen for what you can deliver. And I've gotten to a point where I don't have that drive anymore. So I'm not so focused on trying to be seen, but rather hearing, because when you can see and watch people's body language, that's a main part of listening. And if you're speaking, you can't watch their body language. You can't watch how they're interacting with others in the room, and you can't read the room. And so I've learned to be more silent and to listen, and so that I can hear what the needs are, and then I could be of service to whomever I'm speaking with. And it's so critical for leadership to be able to listen.
Absolutely, it's powerful, and you have to continue, or at least I have to continue to be aware, and I have to remind myself of that. So I'm probably going to take your quote and put it on my wall so that I can see it every day and remind myself to sometimes be quiet and listen. It's so important. Tell us a little bit about how your military experience was, and or how it affects your current role and your current job as a surgeon.
As an immigrant, I fell into that literally. I was recruited because I visited a friend at her job, and there was a recruiting station, and they said, "Come on in and take the test. You could just go for the summer." And I believed that, and
Oh
I
my
took the
God.
test and did so well. I
Mm.
was in college, and then Bill Clinton told me, "Come on over. I know you're not trained or anything, but you're going to be activated for Desert Storm." And so, what a great experience as a 19, 20-year-old to get into an organization that teaches you how to be focused and how to have self-discipline and how to meet friends from other walks of life. I learned that so early with the military, and it has served me well. So when I would wake up for boot camp at 3 a.m., I knew I could be a surgeon because you have to wake up early and work long hours. And so the military has given me a certain sense of resiliency that'll have allowed me to move with the peaks and valleys of my life.
Oh, that's great. I have several friends also that were in Desert Storm, and then in later parts of the military that are otolaryngologists and other surgeons, and they say the same thing. It really helps set their foundation. And in fact, in a way, it makes me think I really wish I could have participated in that. But at the same time, I respect and tremendously support. And thank you for serving your country.
Thank you. When I say it to my students now, they have no idea what I'm talking about. Operation what? I was like, how did I become the older person in the room?
Right. So you've been living in Atlanta for a while, even though you're from, we're up in New York.
Yeah.
How has it been the transitioning back to the Northeast?
Comfortable. I'm so used to an environment like this. I made sure my husband and I had our winter boots and our North Face coats, and that we'll be fine in the cold. But I have loved having the seasons of the fall and now winter, and so it's really nice to be back.
That's great. And we'll take this offline sometime, but I'd love to talk more myself being from the South and doing my training in Memphis and
Yeah.
having lots of people ending up in Grady. So that's so great. Thank you so much for joining us, Kay Marie.
Thank you for
It's
having
been
me.
awesome.
Thank
And
you
I look
so
forward
much.
to talking to you again in the future. I know others will want to reach out to you. And like we said, we'll be sharing patients here soon. And we're looking
Oh,
forward to that
look forward to
relationship.
the collaboration. Have a great day.
And you too. And I'll also thank Mike Cutler from CAT TV, Ray Smith from Southwestern Vermont Healthcare, and Ashley Jowett from Southwestern Vermont Healthcare. I'm Trey Dobson. Go out and find joy in everything you do, even in the face of adversity. And we will see you next week.